All right, folks, welcome to How Does Your Tech Stack Up? This is actually sponsored by MedHealth and TechTown. So I wanted to quickly introduce who I am. So my name is Mac Hendricks. I'm a entrepreneur in residence at TechTown. So I am honored to be your moderator / MC for tonight. So I want to quickly just introduce the two sponsors here. So I'm just going to briefly introduce them. So MedHealth is a cross-border collaboration between Southeast Michigan and Southwest Ontario. They serve the MedTech innovator community by educating, connecting, and convening stakeholders with a goal of advancing better patient outcomes through new innovative technologies. TechTown is Detroit's entrepreneurship hub. We provide programs, education, and resources for early to growth stage small businesses and tech entrepreneurs. So tonight, what we're gonna do is actually talk about a tech stack. And the word tech stack is sometimes overused a little bit. Some people may have different meanings for it, but for this webinar, we will define a tech stack as 2 or more software packages that can be used to run or build your business. We all know that building a company is hard. Picking the right tech stack to help you run or build a business is challenging. So what I want to talk to is 2 areas of the tech stack concept. One is around picking the right tech stack that helps you run your business. And then the second one is really picking a tech stack that helps you build your product for your business. So we have 3 amazing panelists that will provide their insight. I'm going to have each one of them introduce themselves. I'm going to start with Sydney, and I'm going to let her kind of introduce herself, and then we'll move on to Kabir and then John. So go for it, Sydney.
Hey everyone, I am Sydney, the founder of Nixco. We are a software platform that allows non-technical entrepreneurs and business owners build a mobile app that will remove the cost, technical know-how, and racial bias barrier to tech, and get your app onto app stores without a single bit of coding. And we've been doing this for 18 months, and I'm so excited to be here to share my expertise and experience with building a tech stack for my business and helping others do the same.
Great, thank you. Kabir.
Hey everyone, great to be here. My name is Kabir Omaiga. I am co-founder and CEO at Passive Bolt, based out of Ann Arbor. We're a smart access control company. We are an IoT hardware and software supplier for door lock manufacturers. We supply them with the technology necessary to produce cloud-connected devices, as well as the cloud platform necessary to power digital keys.
Okay, great. Glad to have you here, Kabir. John, how about you?
Yeah, thanks, Mac. I'm super excited to be sharing the virtual stage with these 2 founders. My name is John Laughlin. I'm the head of partnerships for a Royal Oak, Michigan-based technical partnership company. So we are an engineering and innovation partner for startups, scale-ups, and large organizations. And then that is the day job. And then I'm also a co-founder on a startup that's operating kind of in stealth mode with that project, working on it on the weekends. So I'm excited to hopefully share a little bit of insight from my vantage point, and looking forward to engaging in a fun conversation here over the next hour.
Cool. Well, thank you all for being here. So just a little housekeeping really quickly. If you have questions, there's a Q&A button. If you hover over like the bottom of your Zoom screen, there should be something that has a Q&A like icon in it. Just click that, put your questions in there. If you can't find that for some reason, you can just use the regular chat, but we would prefer if you put it in the Q&A section. But okay, with that being said, let's kind of get it popping here. So like I talked about, I wanted to kind of split up the tech stack conversation into two sections. So the first one we're going to really focus on is really have some conversations and get some insight around, you know, tech stack components that helps you build your business. So I guess I'll start, and anybody can jump in. And if anybody doesn't jump in, I'll pick somebody. But you know, to me, the first thing when I started thinking about, you know, picking my tech stack, it's like, so from the concept of like running a company, having a company, the heart of the business for me is always like the accounting software. And back in the day, you know, you would have a desktop piece of software like QuickBooks Desktop to run the business. But I'm assuming that when you folks are building out your built out your organizations, you had to kind of figure out what accounting software would work. And I'm assuming that, and maybe you tell me I'm right or wrong, that, you know, being able to integrate with other systems, like being able to integrate your accounting software, CRM, or being able to integrate it with some other piece of software was kind of critical. Maybe, you know, maybe Sydney, I'll just pick somebody. Kind of how did you, you know, you've been doing this for about 18 months. How did you pick the accounting software that you wanted to use? What went into the decision making?
So I've pivoted, of course, from learning what works for us, but so again, we're a software as a service, so we're subscription based. So our income is needing to take monthly or annual payments for people, like, you know, subscription wise. So I found a really great, and of course, affordability was important to me when starting off. So I leveraged a tool called Zoho, and Zoho subscriptions, they are the most, probably the only ones been super affordable to manage subscriptions. And what I liked about it was that it offered integrations for payment processors. And so that's the first thing when I thought of, okay, I know I need to do some accounting and income management. And so the two integrations were either Stripe or PayPal, which are very, you know, trusted platforms. And so I decided to use Stripe to take my income. And so that's what I used for that. And what I like, of course, about Stripe is they also have integrations with things like QuickBooks or many integrations with other tools. But the other part of your bookkeeping accounting is expenses. And so with that, I use Square. Square is also where I do payrolls. And Square actually offers a business card for you. So it can use your business income. So when you start swiping it to charge expenses or your other stacks that you're paying for, what I do like about it is I can go and categorize it, gives me a report, categorizes what I spent, and actually helps do the taxings at the end of the year and makes things super easy. So it was able to take in a lot of integrations and simplify efficiency for me, which was something I looked for as I started to pivot into different tools, was cost to one tool that I liked for revenue, one tool I love to manage my expenses in, and then getting those things to talk and give me great usability reports quarterly or annually when it comes time to. So that was what I was looking for in my decision and the tech stack that I chose to use for my business.
I love it. I love it. So where does customers live? What is your single source of truth? Is it Zoho is where your customers all live?
Yep. That's where they manage the subscription. So if they want to cancel billing, change it, or upgrade, all that's done within Zoho. And it manages customer control center, if you will, for me. And it's their front face to the customer.
Gotcha. So you don't have to write any code or anything. Basically, when you set this up, I'm assuming on your website, you'll have a link that they can log into, like, to Zoho, which is really maybe your site. But it looks like your site, but it's really Zoho. And then from there, they can actually manage all their preference centers. That was you're talking about, a preference center to set up their payments, reoccurring, stuff like that. Okay, cool. Thank you. That's cool, because I think sometimes that is the thing that people struggle with. Like, I want to take payment. How do I take payments so I can manage all the stuff without having to write a front end and things of that nature? Anyone else on the panel want to give their input on that? That was a really good answer, actually. So any other thoughts or any other pieces of software that folks want to share?
Yeah, no, I just one quick plug. We we at Near the Box, we like this tool called Harvest, which is a time tracking and invoicing tool. For us being a little bit more on the services side, and delivering invoices to our customers, and there being an expectation from a time and materials perspective that there's a time tracking piece, and we've found Harvest to be a pretty user and team friendly tool for us to leverage. So yeah, just one additional thing I think
So
Sydney nailed that one.
does Harvest actually allow your employees that put in their time as well? Is that when you mean time tracking, as in you can put in how much time an employee worked on a particular project, and then it gets passed through and billed to the end customer? Is that what it does?
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Okay, cool. Because I always look at that because you know, I never want to put in time. I used to be one of those guys that we used to have a spreadsheet that people put their time into. That sucks. So having your employee put in the time, and then from there, I'm assuming then there's something on the inside Harvest that you can say, okay, it's for this customer. This is the billable rate for this customer. And at the end of the day, it shoots out invoices that has the right amount on it, basically.
Yeah, exactly. I know there's admin functionality that our CEO and founder uses that's makes things pretty easy for him. And then on the employee side, you know, if you're consistently working on the same projects, you can favorite certain project line items so that you don't have to create a timesheet every day from scratch, which is a nice time saver when at the end of the day, we all just want to do the work, right? Not timesheets are the bane of so many people's existence. So it's a handy tool.
No, that's great. All right, well, cool. All right, let's move on to something I really like talking about: unified communications. Like, how do you get in touch with your customers, or better yet, how do they get in touch with you, right? And then on top of that, unified communications also is not just around your customers talking to you, but how do you communicate with your staff? How do you communicate with your contractors, all the different people inside of your organization that makes your product actually work? How do you communicate? So I just want to just talk through, if somebody wanted to share, what do they use and why did you pick whatever product that you use for communication? I'll pick Kabir for this one because Kabir, I don't see him wanting to step up to the plate. Go ahead, Kabir.
I was trying to chime in on the the accounting stuff, but I didn't want to cut you off. So I just
Well, do you have something special for the accounting thing?
No, I use something different. So we're currently using, well, we've been using for the past 3 years, QuickBooks Online. That's an obvious one, and most people discount it right off the bat. But actually, they've done a really good job with the web app version of their application now. They turn it into like a menu, where you turn on the features that you want. So you're only paying for what you need, essentially. That's a really good feature. They also acquired Timesheets, which is T-Sheets, and integrated it right into QuickBooks Online. So now you're able to, track time, assign it to the proper project, feeds right into the ledger. You're able to connect all of the bank accounts for the company. They have AI that they're leveraging, which helps you with reconciliation right off the bat. So when when the bookkeeping at the end of the month happens, you have most of the accounts automatically reconciled. At the very least, they'll propose that ledger. You can review and approve. If you have a CPA, you can plug them right into the account, and they're able to go in and audit everything you did too, and put their stamp on it. If you're fundraising, it's a really cool tool because you can generate your P&L and balance sheet right away and add it to your data room for due diligence purposes, as an example. And it's got payroll also as an option that you can turn on, and it's on a, it's kind of pay per use. So you can have as many employees as you want onboarded, but you're not paying for, a single head or you're not paying for headcount. You're paying for whose payroll you process that specific month, right? And what's great about processing it through them, not only do they take care of the, tax side, just like ADP or the other companies would, but they also add it directly and reconcile it into your books because, their AI is capable of just feeding it right through. So for that, and many, not to mention, there's obviously the ability to add your customers and create automated invoicing with the ability to also have, portal payments processing set up, etc. So you're really able to do gap accounting fully with the QuickBooks Online, and with all the different plugins that they have now, you could plug it into just about anything. So that's my go-to.
So, and let me add one thing to that. So I use QuickBooks Online as well. So
Mhm.
I don't keep it real. Like what I like is from a cash flow perspective. Like when I run payroll, I don't have to run it 2 days or 3 days in advance. I can run it that night. I don't know if you guys have noticed that. I can run it that night, and that means I keep my cash a little bit longer in my bank account, for before I have to pay it out for payroll. So that's what I like about QuickBooks as well. So I'm sorry, I didn't mean. Did you have something else around QuickBooks as well?
That's a really good point, because typical platforms, like standard platforms like ADP, would have a cutoff date. If you don't run payroll by that date, there's going to be all sorts of delays before people receive their money. With QuickBooks, it's instantaneous, right? So there is no hold period of any kind. They'll collect it, send it, it's good to go. So that's my go-to. And I think your next question was about communication platforms.
Yep.
So we use Slack mainly for internal communication. That's again for just, obviously we're a tech team, and with COVID, we had to work remotely for quite some time. So one of the advantages of Slack is, with built-in, let's say DMs, and then the ability to have channels you can subscribe to and manage conversations that way. It helps us have really good record keeping for things that we discuss. It's better than having to sift through a ton of email threads to find things. The other tool that we use quite heavily is Jira, for tracking, our sprints. So we have, we do sprints on a 2 weeks basis. So every 2 weeks, we would, take things from what we would call a parking lot of tasks that have to get done, move them into a sprint, and that sprint is tracked from, a task being, not started to in progress to complete it. But we're able to also, integrate Slack directly into Jira now, which is really cool, because now you can have a Slack thread that's directly tied into the sprint, right? And you can manage both concurrently. And Confluence, could feed right into Jira as well, provided obviously by the same company, which allows us to have documentation also tied in directly. So it's really, those set of tools, I think, are the main things we use for communication, alongside the traditional, emails and everything else.
This is a follow-up question for everybody, actually. It's like, how important is phones to you? So having a phone call for customers to call you. Like I noticed sitting on your website that in the 3 options that you have for your product, the very last option, which is the high-end option, is only one that gets phone support. Is being able to talk to customers important still, or like when I say talk, like physically, like voice talk to them? Is that still important? Or is being able to talk via live chat or being able to talk via email, is that good enough for most customers these days?
It depends on the type of customer. So that's why I kind of tiered mine and who gets that level of access, because I did start off with everybody with the phone number, and it was not the way to go. I got text, there was no bad, it was text 10 o'clock at night and calls on the weekend. But when I put that phone, people do leverage it and utilize it. It was about basically building a personal relationship. And so mostly for our enterprise customers who are paying you a lot more and they're running a lot more heavier systems on our software, they usually need more immediate assistance. And the quickest way we find people to get a hold of us is just having a phone. And even if we don't get back to us, at least having that phone or a text, we can get back immediately, as opposed to perhaps a chat or an email. And those other communication offerings, again, as a SaaS platform, we've done Zoom calls. People can get like a link to get actually on a video chat, which is good for us too, so we can share screens and share control too if we need to work through a troubleshooting issue. We offer chats if they're not in a software. So like the chat option, and the tech stack tool we use for chat is called Intercom. And what I like about Intercom is they can be on the front end or back end of your tool or website. And so you can connect frequently asked questions, a knowledge base. So people in bots, so people can try to help themselves before they get to a real person and utilize all the resources. And then also, I think when it comes to communication and the phone thing, a lot of the questions that we used to get asked, we had phone for everybody and chat for everybody, it'd be the same thing all the time, which to us was like, okay, well, then let's create a forum, forums like Reddit. You may see these too whenever you go to software, they have like a knowledge base where everyone's put in some comments. That has been useful too, because people mostly will ask the common things, and it's great if you can start fostering a community around your communication and people can start helping each other. Because they can find the answer a lot quicker too that way, than actually waiting for a callback or a chat back.
Got it. Okay. No, good stuff. So John, at Near the Box, how do you communicate? I know that, obviously you're head of partnerships. So for you, I'm assuming having a phone number is important, but I don't know. How does your customers talk to you? Do they reach out to your form online? I'm seeing you have a form here, like a contact us type of deal. Is that how people typically reach you guys, or how does communication work there?
Yeah, so it's interesting. My role at Near the Box is twofold. So I lead partnerships and business development, but I also lead product management. So I found myself nerdily listening to Kabir's answer because we have some overlap in terms of our internal workflows and tools that we use. So like on the product management side with our internal team, to optimize communication, we wear out Slack, and we also have channels specific to certain like features or tickets that we're focused on or spraying on, which is good. It like allows all the like pertinent people to be there and kind of one direct chat, which is pretty helpful. Jira is a great tool. We leverage Asana to stay organized and to also bring our customers along for the ride in terms of having like some reasonable visibility on our progress on certain tasks or tickets. And then for staying kind of organized on features that we're working on, product features or app features, we really like the tool Notion. So Notion allows you to stay fairly organized from a requirements perspective, and then also allows multiple team members to like contribute to a Notions page. So I recommend that tool for an internal team stack. And then from a customer facing standpoint, you're right, we have a contact form page on our website. That doesn't get a ton of run. The forms go to me, but like we don't get a lot of buzz directly from our website. For us, it's very much like a partnerships relationship sell. And so we leverage Calendly pretty often versus just like setting up kind of random phone calls or people like wearing our phones out. So that allows us to have a little more ownership on our schedule in terms of meeting with current customers or prospects. And then finally, I think every entrepreneur or leader should mandate that you have some sort of CRM or customer relationship management tool. For the larger companies, right, you're looking at like a HubSpot or a Salesforce. But for a smaller entity, right, we leverage a tool called Salesflare, which has been fairly adept for us at allowing visibility with our sales leadership and the people kind of out there on the front lines. But there's numerous CRM tools out there. My recommendation is just to have one that's effective, that keeps everyone organized and apprised, and also gives you kind of reminders on who you might need to circle back with in your pipeline.
Yeah, I like that, because I think that's the thing that people don't understand the value of CRM sometimes. It's not until you start having situations where you missed a lead, right? Just because you missed calling them from, maybe you were working on a deal and let's say they say call them back in like a couple, maybe 3 weeks, and then you call them back, let's say 2 months later, and they already decided to purchase another product. I think that's when people start realizing in your sales cycle, you need to have some tool that kind of reminds you that, hey, you need to talk to this person. So John, that's a very good point. So what I want to do now is move to the section that I want to talk about, and I think you folks want to talk about, is really around how to pick a tech stack that helps you build your product for your business, right? So just to recap, we talked about picking a set of software packages to help you run your business, right? Which is still important because that is stuff that is complicated, hard, and you need it to run the business. But what we're going to talk about now is, now I have an idea. I came up with a concept that I want to build, and I'm trying to figure out how do I realize this idea into a MVP. And I just want to define, we use a lot of acronyms in the startup world, that's minimal viable product. Like I just want to have something that I can show people what my product, what my idea will look like or possibly do. And the way I look at it, you want to take a slice of your idea, like of the most exciting use case that provides the most value for people, and you want to turn it into an MVP. So for the panel here, I want to start with Kabir here, is first of all, do you I think I hear it, like, as being an entrepreneur in residence, I talk to a lot of people, and a lot of people want to start building like an app on day one, like in a traditional fashion, like try and go, get Xcode and get a developer to start building. I don't know. What do you say to that? What's your advice? What's your thoughts around that?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. So I would caution anyone that may want to go from an idea to building MVPs to maybe pause and think about customer discovery first. Personally, I think that is the absolute critical first step, right? It's knowing, validating the customer need problem first, and then second would be designing a solution for the customer that you validated the problem for, meaning have early customer input in the design process. I remember when we were doing early prototypes of our product, we're IoT software, so we're both hardware and software combo. One of our early customers was Xfinity, and we would fly down to Philly to Xfinity HQ with like 3D printed, really not good looking prototype with an app to go with that. That was terrible. I mean, it had my picture as the profile and just one couple buttons, right? I would just walk into those meetings and we would pitch the heck out of it like it was the best thing since sliced bread. The point is, we were trying to pitch the value proposition, not the product at that point. And what we were looking for were objections, right? What is wrong with what we're thinking the value is, or did we actually miss the boat? Is there something else that we needed to be doing? And based on feedback we got, we iterated. If you don't want to pivot 6 months down the line, 9 months down the line, you want to be pivoting, the first month as much as you can, because once you get that right from the get-go, then whatever you build next is much more likely to stick. So it's a non-technical answer to your question, but it's one that I think is critical, which is, focus on validating a customer problem, focus on figuring out, what the solution needs to be for that customer, and then go build an MVP around it.
Well, let's do a follow-up question, and anybody can answer this as well. So they did their customer discovery, and right now I'm in Start Studio. I'm helping people along, right, in Start Studio. So we had a team of folks that this went through, and I think they go through the idea phase fine. They went through figuring out, okay, I need to pivot because this idea doesn't make sense. Now they get to that point where they need to build something, and they get a little scared because they were like, I'm not a coder. You talk about wireframes. They're like, oh my God, I don't build things that look pretty. So Kabir, you already kind of answered that. It's like, it doesn't need to be pretty, right? It just needs to basically allow people to validate the idea, right? The value proposition, right? Is what you said. But now, I need to build something. So I don't know. Sydney, what do you think? What do you think people should do? Should they go for trying to hire? Because this is what, before you answer, Sydney, a lot of times I'm on the phone with people because I do these sessions with folks, and they're like, I need to find a developer. I need to get a developer that can code. So can you help me, build out the requirements there? And I'm always thinking like, is there some other solution to this? And I'm kind of leading down a certain path, Sydney. But I think there's definitely like other ways than going out and hiring a coder, at least to get your first portion done. So what's your thoughts there?
Yeah. So the first step should not be to hire a coder. I think that's like step 10. That means at that point you have requirements, a plan, wireframe validation, things of that sort. So when you're looking at building a product, this can be tech or not tech, like when I say tech, physical, digital, things of that sort. First thing is, we can say requirements gathering. I think that's a good thing, is what you needed to do, MVPing, which is understanding your value proposition. And an easy way that I like to kind of plan an MVP is using a business model canvas. It's been really simple where you kind of put, okay, what problem am I solving? And then defining the who, then the how, and the what activities will this function do, and what kind of tech stack will I need to implement it. So that's been the approach that I advise to. And to really understand, do I need a coder? Can I take another route, like with a no or low code solution, or a licensed product or solution? Is really, everyone's industry is different. So I understand too, we find people who get like into the medical game, you get a lot more security, you get a lot more hurdles that you just need that customization, and that's fine. But I still believe there are other MVP level things that you can do with no or low code products before determining if a developer or going for a coder is the right fit for you. And when you go to a coder, you're going to need requirements. You want to have to show them an example of what success looks like to you. Even if you do go that route, that would be my approach to take.
So all right. So no, you hit it right. So what I was kind of looking for is like low code or no code. So for those who don't know what that means, is that really it is what it kind of sounds like. It's like, if you don't know how to code, there's platforms out there that allows you to actually build your application without knowing any code itself, right? So and I had Sydney answer this in particular because she runs a company called Nixcode, which does exactly that. So I was waiting for you to say something, but I had to put it out there for you. And then but so a low code, no code environment is really, a lot of times, is what you see, what you get. You can drag and drop and build the application right then and there, for those who don't know what that means. So I think, once you kind of get to the point that you have your MVP, you're kind of, shown the value of it. And now you need to either, depending, like you said, Sydney, depending on what your product is, if you're doing something in the medical industry, IoT related, you may need to go deeper, right? Because now you need to integrate with systems. So this is kind of where I thought, John, maybe you can talk about, like, near the box, this is kind of what you guys do, right? You kind of help companies take their, take their MVP, in some cases, and actually kind of drill down and kind of build it out. So when people are ready to kind of do that, I'm assuming when they come to you, they need to have some requirements. Like there's what I'm trying to paint here. There's a lift to in order to get to a company like yours that does that. And sometimes they don't have the finances to do that. And sometimes they just don't have they don't know enough about their product yet to get there. So kind of talk about, like, what do you kind of see when people come to you and say, hey, I need to hire you guys to build our product? What's the first thing you kind of look at and give your perspective?
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there. So I want to echo what Kabir said earlier. I'd say the biggest problem that I see with ideation stage first time founders is that they want to barrel straight into development. And like another thing that I often see is first time founders who are obsessed with their solution. And I see a lot of founders overlooking the problem space that their solution would sit in. And you can't get past that without talking to customers and doing customer interviews. And so I want to double down on that point because I think it's a great one, that you can't make assumptions that your idea is great as a founder, and it needs to be validated. So I'm super excited to get to know Sydney actually, because we can be kind of a little bit farther down the stream of a startup's life cycle. So we come in after our first formal fundraising event, after ideation, after validation, where a founding team has gotten considerable customer feedback. They have traction. And then now it's time to build a product and a code base that can scale and grow as they take on hundreds or thousands more customers. And so what we like to see is not assumptions made by founding teams, but like a customer advisory board that's influencing their feedback, influencing their product vision. We also like to see initiative taken by founding teams that are non-technical, because now we're at a point with low code and with wireframe tools where first-time founders are able to spin these things up, on their own by learning and hustling and bootstrapping. And if we talk to a founder and all they have is an idea on a bar napkin, that leaves us feeling very concerned that they haven't done ideation or validation very well. And even if they have capital, it would be misused to build anything custom that hasn't been borne out with a little bit of traction and customer feedback.
So I think I appreciate that, because there's so many software development houses that would just take their money, right, and go build whatever they said build. I think your approach is more thoughtful. Is really let's validate that you actually have a unique value proposition, and that the problem you're solving is something that customers want. So I appreciate that. What I wanted to really talk about, I guess, really quickly is go back to Kabir and talk about Passive Bolt, which is your company, and talk about like your experience when, you kind of gave us a little bit of an insight into like your first prototype that you showed to Xfinity, I think it was. Like, how did you go about building that first prototype? Like, did you use low code, no code? I know it's kind of an IoT device, so I know there was more to it than that, but this kind of gave us roughly like, how did that process happen?
Yeah, so, in our specific case, because we're an IoT product, we needed, an app to showcase. We needed the hardware itself to showcase. So we had to approach both sides of the technology stack, right? The hardware side and the software side. For the hardware side, thank God for 3D printing. It's a lot easier now than it used to be, right? No need to produce a tool, no need to spend a ton of money. Just a CAD model, print it, doesn't matter what it looks like. It just needs to be a box that could contain your electronics, right? If you're doing, let's say something that requires an electronic board, which all hardware does, you obviously need a circuit board. Now you've got two paths. You can go build your own, or you can buy a development board. That's the shortest path to testing an idea. $50, $75 typically is what would run you. So go buy a circuit, go buy a development board that houses whatever capability you're looking for. You want Bluetooth connectivity, buy one that has that. Buy one that has ideally the software stack. It's called a Bluetooth stack that's already, preloaded, so you don't have to do any of that development yourself, right? That allows you essentially to hit the ground running with, an app that you can create on the software side, using some of the low code or no code platforms of your choosing. There are many options out there. I guess Nix is on the phone, on the line here, so we'll throw that one out there. Use that, create just a base prototype, connect it to your hardware, and voila. So both on the hardware and software side, there's never been a better time for a non-technical founder to be able to create an MVP, right? I mean, the tools available now are just, it's wild. There's so many options, and anyone can do it, but just make sure you're investing, even though it's not a lot of money. If you want low tech, make sure you're investing, your money in an idea that's already validated, because otherwise it's a time sink, it's money sink. But I think Passive Bolt is a little bit of we had a little bit of an unfair advantage going into the thing. That's why I didn't really use it particularly as an example. I spun off of Continental Automotive, which is a big $50 billion, automotive tier one. Took my technical team with me. I led the team that created keyless entry in cars. So that's technology that lets you touch a door handle to unlock your vehicle. We scaled it, developed it to over 120 million vehicles globally. Took my core team and we spun off to create Passive Bolt. So we had a wealth of technical knowledge in that sense. But despite that, we still went low cost for the first prototype. And we still didn't spend a ton of time developing. So just because you know how to do it doesn't necessarily mean it's the right thing to do, right? Because again, until it's all validated, there's no point in us spending the time and energy to go develop some super custom solutions, right? We just worked with out of the box solutions, built prototypes, walked into Xfinity, presented it, got feedback, and guess what? We completely demolished that prototype and started over because it wasn't right. And that's my point, right? So why write all that code and create all those circuit boards only to tear them apart? So that's the key there.
So no, that's good feedback there. So Sydney, so for your platform, kind of like give us the background there. Was that the same type of deal? I know you're not IoT, but still you had to build a user interface for people to be able to build up a mobile app without no code. And on top of that, you need to make all these relationships with all these different companies so that you'll have plugins from Shopify to PayPal to be able to put things together. What was the experience there for your MVP?
You did your homework, Mac. I like it.
Hey, that's what I do. That's what moderators do. I do my homework. Go for it.
So one thing about Nix Code is I actually tried to launch this product in like 2015, maybe. So it flunked, right? And it was probably because my product, right? I had a product at my first iteration. I had basically some pictures in a Google form for people to pick what kind of app or what they needed. They'll put in all the information. And like I manually facilitated a lot of things. But it was my first way to start collecting information, getting people to start building what kind of things they wanted in their app. It really wasn't sustainable, and it really didn't convert well for my users. So that was my first way of kind of simplifying, using some tools that I had, what I could afford to do, to try to build an app builder through using forms. And although we use forms now, still we able to improve our user UX design. And so now we're still a beta product, I would consider us to do. But that was our experience too. Now I renamed it, I rebranded it, got a new interface, new language used, and automated a lot more of it by using some of these things we talk about, like Zapier, to connect things and connect forms to send people to the next stage of the workflow. And now it allowed me to almost generate a pipeline of people to build their own apps and get into the software. So that was kind of my experience too. So still from prototype forms, having a small product, pivoting, getting better design, using more tools, again, to still push people through my pipeline and start leveraging my product. And the product itself is definitely, I use a lot of out of the box solutions, things that already existed out there. I used my own knowledge. I used Upwork and Fiverr, which are like marketplaces where you can find experts for sometimes like $5 or $10, a couple times an hour, a couple of dollars an hour. And I said, can you just do this tweak to customize it? Can you add this feature here? And so I was able to do that, to start testing and see what people were using, and start actually building this beta product. So, and it still got work. We do another, every 6 months, I think we learn something and make a change. So change in prototyping is continuous through product development as well. But that's definitely been our journey with developing a product and pivoting and getting that MVP. Then once we knew exactly what worked, we converted, starting hiring people to build upon it and make it stronger.
So interesting. Yeah, so interesting thing you said. So a couple of things. So I'm going to open it up for questions really quickly, and I'm going to drill into something that you said, but I'm going to let people start formulating their questions. You said something interesting to me, like, both Kabir and you have pretty technical products, right? So, you need it in some cases to leverage a third party through Upwork or Freelancer, things of that nature. So I get hit with this all the time. And I always, when they say they're about to go hire somebody on Freelancer or Upwork, I'm like, well, what's your requirements? Because if you just like send them like bullet points on what you want, you don't know what you're gonna get back. So I always work with them and say, okay, let's build a flow. Let's talk about exactly what your requirements are and what is your success criteria. And then if you're going to use one of these freelancers, then send that to them. Would you agree to that advice, or anything else you would say? Any stories that you would say, I didn't get a good return on my investment for Upwork or a freelancer?
I wouldn't say that. I actually found a CTO through Upwork just from working on a project.
Cool.
And he has so much experience in my background. He was like, I could be a virtual CTO and really help you as you go seek for capital. So we actually ended up building a relationship. And I know a lot of people who've actually found their CTO or their technical co-founder through some of these marketplaces of people. So to your question of what did you provide? So if your product is intellectual, I wouldn't go crazy giving too much up front. So I didn't quite just unveil, here's what I'm working on, here's what I need to do. I did kind of just ask some high level questions and get their experience around examples of if they had worked in my space, what I was looking to do first. I verified their expertise. And once I did that, I had no problem issuing an NDA, and no one ever gave me an issue with saying, no, I'm not going to sign that. Usually they would. Then at that time, the way especially for new things that weren't actual yet, I'm a picture person. I drew out every screen. Here's what this button should do. Here's who uses the screen. Here's what it should do, how it should function, who it's for. And I think it's important too, because bullet points are great, requirements lists are fine, but people can interpret what that looks like and how that works differently in their mindset. So I always put it on paper, and it would be just sketches, and I would send that to them so they can visualize it. And also as a developer, when you visualize it, it also helps them realize, do I have the programming skills to do this? Because not everyone's front end, not everyone's back end, not everyone's full stack. So when I go get in that rabbit hole, but I think it's power in actually giving people a sketch or outline so they can say, one, I can make this work, but I can't make it look like this. I can get you this design because I have the language, but you're going to need someone to help do this piece of it. So that's how I worked with getting it out there to people on Fiverr or Upwork. That was my process and how I gave out my requirements for what I needed built.
Got it. Okay. I'm looking for a question here. Let me go and find it. I'll see it in a second here. I do not see it, but somebody supposed to send a question in, so I'm just waiting for it. But I had. Do you? I don't see do you see the question? I don't see, wait, I
Yeah, the
don't,
question is, are there low code, no code platforms that can create smart contracts or anything else related to blockchain technologies?
oh, got you. Oh, you know what? I was looking in the answered question, answered.
Oh.
Okay, I'm in the open. All
Yeah.
right. So that's a good question. So does anybody know of any of these low code or no code platforms that can build smart contracts?
So I don't know platforms specifically that do that, but I think there are different no-code tools you can piece together that can integrate and do something like that. So creating smart contracts, you can definitely find an open source form maker that has tons of integrations, and maybe you can connect to Zapier, so you can create rules, you can create, some workflows, depending on the details and requirements. So that's what comes to mind, is maybe not an all-inclusive one product, but you may be able to hack something together with using some workflows and Zapier with some tools to send and share information and to do some logic programming related to blockchain technologies. That one I have to think on. Nothing comes to mind immediately for me.
Yeah, so it's just so new still, right? So it's just so new. It's kind of like, back in the day, you really didn't have like all the no code platforms that we have today, right? You either had to, do Xcode, even Swift didn't even exist, right? So all you had was Xcode, and you had to kind of like code it out. So it's a good question that we can at least, I'll have to look too. Now you got me thinking. I'm sitting here thinking of some as well. But also what I wanted to do is also, we have like a couple minutes left. I wanted to like ask John, like what should people look for like a good technical partner? Like how should they find a good technical partner? Like when somebody comes to you and says, hey, you kind of gave us a little bit of some thoughts already. It's like if they come to you and they don't even have customer discovery done, then they're probably not a good fit for an organization like yours. Is there anything else that like, and maybe if they're not right for you, maybe they can find another partner that can help them do something. Like what do you kind of see as some of the gotchas or some of the thoughts that you have around finding a technical partner?
Yeah, no, I think it's a great question. And yeah, for me, I mean, typically I see three primary routes you can go for startups. You can find kind of like a freelancer, whether that be through Toptal or Upwork. There's a number of different marketplaces that you can kind of leverage for kind of hourly work on a product. You can also try to find a technical co-founder or a CTO, which that can be a great option, but it can be really hard to find that person who has the back end and front end and design chops that sit the rabbit hole that Sydney referenced earlier. And then you can also try to find a dev firm or a technical firm that can help kind of bring it to life. Now, that might be a little bit more expensive, but they're going to have a full team that might be able to do all of the components of engineering that you need to stand up a product. And I just also want to double down on something Sydney said earlier. One way that you can try to snuff out if someone's going to be a good fit and be able to deliver for you is to really examine their portfolio and try to isolate if they've done something similar to the vision that you have or the needs that you have in the past. So I always recommend digging into their portfolio and following up on the references that you asked them for, right? Like if someone is in charge of building your brain baby, like it's worth placing a phone call or sending an email to the 3 or 4 references that you want that they've delivered. So I highly recommend that. And but yeah, I also recommend like tapping your network, right? Like if you're looking for a technical partner, the odds are that someone at TechTown or or another entrepreneurship support organization is going to know quality technical partners for you. So lean on a mentor in your network to help steer you in the right direction.
Thank you, John. So with that being our last question, I want to say thank you to Sydney, Kamir, John, for enlightening us today. So I want to thank TechTown and MedHealth. You can check out more information around TechTown at techtowndetroit.org, and also for MedHealth at medhealthinnovation.org. Thank you, and we'll see you soon. Take care.